Awesome. Thanks so much, Katie. And thank you all for listening today. Something that's come up over and over again for a long time, but especially in the more recent times, is my costs keep going up and my reimbursements have either stayed the same or lowered. So, we work with thousands of clients a day, helping them to maximize what they're being paid from the insurance companies. So, like Katie said, I've been doing this for over 5 years at Unitas. So I've got a lot of experience with this. I know how it works. And just kind of give you some tips and tricks today on a little bit of insight to the industry, some things you can do now to kind of help mitigate these issues. And then, of course, just kind of break down the process and what it actually looks like to increase your fees from the insurance companies. So we're going to go over today. First point would be to escape the PPO rate trap. So we're going to learn how to identify hidden participation pitfalls that keep you locked into low reimbursements and the proven steps to break free. Number two, negotiate like a pro. So some strategic data-driven approaches to PPO negotiations that will help you secure better reimbursements. And then lastly, maximizing your PPO leverage. You want to uncover insider strategies to optimize your network participation. There's negotiations, which is more straightforward. Then there's what's called optimization, which is going to be more along the lines of understanding how these relationships work in the industry. A lot of you are probably familiar with umbrella companies or leasing arrangements. There's a lot of opportunity there to maximize what you're being paid when you focus on those relationships. So we'll just kind of dive in today to all of these. A little bit about us. We are the largest PPO negotiations company that's out there. We've worked with thousands and thousands of clients all across all 50 states, have over 2,000 clients today and over 100 experts on our team. So this is, what we do all day, every day. We're very good at it. On average, we're doing about a 20% increase on your reimbursement rates. Personally, I increased my clients' revenue by over 7 million in just 2 years when I was a consultant for Unitas. So I know that it works, and definitely something worth doing to maximize your revenue. With rising costs over the years, and with them typically not increasing your reimbursements or possibly even lowering them. So if you would like to download a framework guide, you can scan this QR code or go to www.ppoguide.com. So feel free to take notes today. If you're like me, it kind of helps you remember things. But otherwise, you can also download this framework here, and it'll kind of just go over everything that we talked about. So number one, we're going to talk about escaping the PPO rate trap. So discovering and mapping out PPO participation is really the first step. I always get the question, why does this process take so long? There's a system to what we do, and you can't really skip a step because then you're not getting the full picture for what actually needs to be done. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth. We want to look into receiving and documenting your actual fee schedule reimbursements. 9 times out of 10 practices don't even have updated fees, on file, which is a problem, right? And then of course, comparing and repairing UCR versus reimbursement discrepancies. So mapping out your PPO participation, there's different types of participation. Your direct contracts are the most obvious. I signed up with Delta Dental and I get paid from Delta, and that's my reimbursement rate. Now, you also have PPO to PPO leasing arrangements in the industry. This is becoming more and more and more prevalent. It seems to change really month to month, definitely year to year. But essentially, if you sign with a PPO, you are joining that PPO itself, but you're also saying, I consent to being in network with any PPOs that you affiliate with. Now, this could be one other PPO, it could be 17 other PPOs. It just really depends. Umbrella networking is the third way to participate. Umbrella networks are going to be a network of plans. They're not a PPO, so they're not an insurance company, but they can provide a much higher reimbursement rate because they are going to be a group of plans instead of just, a PPO that's leasing with other PPOs. And they provide a fee schedule. Again, it can be higher, but we do see cases where it's lower than the PPOs too, or similar fees. So just because you are with an umbrella network doesn't particularly mean you're using it correctly. I actually kind of find the opposite. Most people who are with umbrella networks actually aren't using them correctly. And the reason why is because if you have layered multiple plans that will share a relationship, they'll always pay you on the lowest paying fee, which we'll go into more in a minute. So what you want to do is you want to call provider relations to confirm your participation per doctor and per location. I have seen less than 5% of the time where you have Dr. A and Dr. B at the same location actually having the exact same participation. So you always want to confirm each doctor's participation because it could vary, and then that will change your actual strategy for increasing your fees because you have a different starting point. So we're going to give you a contact list and provider relations numbers at the end of the webinar you can use. And of course, document all this information in a spreadsheet. You want to focus on your major PPOs. And then you want to confirm, this detail is really important. How is my doctor participating with you? Because you can't just say, am I in network? That's not really going to give you as much information as you need to know, because it could be that you're in network through a direct contract, which again is more straightforward, but you could be in network through a PPO leasing arrangement. You could be a network through an umbrella. To make it even more complicated, you technically could have signed directly and are still accessing another plan. Even though you signed directly, there are some PPOs that operate that way. So always best to confirm, how is my doctor participating with you? You want to get the effective date, and then you want to get the correlated fee schedule. Again, that's imperative to understand your starting point to make sure that it is accurate and up to date. So again, just to recap on the contract types, direct contract is I signed with this PPO, they have card carrying patients, and I signed up with Aetna, I get paid by Aetna for Aetna patients. Okay, very straightforward. But then you have your PPO leasing arrangements. I signed with a PPO with patients, and now I have more patients calling me saying, hey, I'm in network with your plan. Maybe you had no idea. Well, these arrangements are very common. They're very normal. And again, if you have multiple arrangements, you sign with PPO-A and PPO-B, and they both access PPO-C, PPO-C will pay you on the lower of the two. So that's why it's important to understand this, because this all comes down to how you're being paid and your bottom line. Okay. Umbrella networking is the third way to participate. You've got probably 4 big umbrellas, but depending on your state, you could have anywhere from 5 to 7 umbrella companies. Similar concept. If you layer these guys, it's like a Venn diagram. This umbrella and this umbrella share a lot of relationships. There's some sprinkled over here, some sprinkled over here. Again, anything in that middle part of the Venn diagram is just going to default to the lowest pair. So essentially, anytime you're setting this up on your own, typically it's not going to be in your favor, just because that is how it works, right? That's how insurance is going to be set up for you regardless. Even if you negotiate a fee schedule, right, it's still always going against this system of what is created, with the leasing arrangements. So what it looks like really is this web, and this is kind of a condensed version of the web. It really is a lot bigger than this, not to scare anyone, but there are dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of relationships. So when you understand what this web looks like and how everything connects to each other, then you can understand the path to increasing your fees. But if you don't know what the web looks like, then you'll never be able to actually increase your fees, because you're just kind of spinning your wheels. You're, shooting in the dark. You don't really know, is this PPO actually through this PPO, or is it through an umbrella, or is it through another PPO? So that's why it's important to do that due diligence in the beginning to verify that participation. We want to receive and document your actual fee schedule reimbursements. So many of these PPOs will give increases in the beginning of the year. a dollar or two potentially. Some of them substantial, but usually not. Some of them may decrease your fees. So that's why it's really important to make sure that you have that accurate and up-to-date fee schedule. So you want to call provider relations, you can always check your portal, or you can email them for a copy of your current fee schedules. And again, per doctor, per location, especially if you have those specialists in your office, they typically are going to be on different fees, although a lot of times they won't be, and they'll just stick everyone under a GP fee schedule, which is another rabbit hole. But essentially, you want to update your Dentrix or whatever software you have to make sure that those fee schedules are up to date. And then you know your starting point so that you're, again, not just guessing, saying, oh, yeah, we have this one in, Sally put this in a couple years ago. It's probably good. Probably not. Want to make sure that it is fully up to date before you increase your fees. Okay. So comparing and repairing UCR versus reimbursement discrepancies, you want to enter your fee schedules into a spreadsheet. Compare your top 20 to 35 UCRs versus your reimbursements. Now, of course, if you're a specialist, you may have less codes than this, but typically for a GP, we see around 35 codes is going to encompass majority of your revenue. We want to recommend to raise your UCRs when necessary. You do not want your UCRs to be at or below your highest reimbursing PPO fee schedule. If you have a UCR that's lower than your reimbursement rate, they're only going to pay up to the UCR. So that's why we recommend to increase the UCR first. And then, of course, utilizing some data, that you have access to. We, of course, use Henry Schein's data to make sure that it's, the most accurate. You want your UCRs to be competitive because it is going to demonstrate your price point. When you go to negotiate, if you say, hey, this is my cash price, but your cash price doesn't even cover your costs, then you're not really helping your case for asking for more, right? So that's kind of the rule of thumb there. Just make sure that they are competitive for your area. And high UCRs can correlate with high reimbursement rates. It's definitely something that we always recommend to do. So again, this is the QR code to download the breakdown of the framework that we're talking about today, if you want to access this at a later time. So number 2, negotiate like a pro. Discover a strategic data-driven approach to PPO negotiations that helps you secure better reimbursements without adding any new procedures. So these are some key points we want to talk about. Ensuring you don't waste time on the wrong procedures. Number 2, approaching PPO negotiation process. And number 3, understanding how to actually compare the offers from the PPOs. So you want to export your annual production summary from your practice management software. You want to make sure the report is listed by procedure code, quantity, and production. Then you want to sort your procedures in a spreadsheet by highest grossing production to determine your top 20 to 35 procedure codes. Again, if you're a specialist, this should be easy for you. You probably know them off the top of your head. Even if you are a GP, you probably know them too. But regardless, it may surprise you as to which ones are your top grossing. You may think, oh, I do this one all the time. But in reality, it's really not as much of a chunk of your production as you would think. So use these procedures in step 2. And then, of course, also when comparing your PPO fee schedule offers. So most PPOs will consider negotiations every 2 to 3 years. You want to reach out to provider relations and request a fee schedule increase. I always recommend doing email. Paper trail is your best friend. That way it's easier follow up. If you do phone calls, it could be kind of lost kind of situation. You want to pay attention to your PPO participation in any leasing arrangements. Like we talked about earlier, if you have a guardian but paid under Aetna's fees, you'll need to negotiate with Aetna, which will then increase your guardian fee schedule. So again, it's important to pay attention to those relationships first before approaching negotiations, because then you may just be reaching out to the wrong carrier and then you have to start all over again. So comparing offers received from PPOs. Using the previous step, you want to identify your top codes. In a spreadsheet, you want to compare your current fee schedules versus the new fee schedules. There could be instances where the frequency is going to then outweigh any increase or decrease. So you want to really pay attention to that. a $100 procedure may increase, may be outweighed by a $5 procedure decrease, depending on your frequency. So that's something to take into consideration. Lastly, you want to audit your EOBs after accepting a new fee schedule to make sure they are paying you correctly. Yes, shockingly, insurance can make mistakes. So we want to go, look into those EOBs, ensure that, hey, they are paying what they said they would pay. Most fee schedule increases can take 30 to 90 days or even longer to go into effect. Number three, we want to talk about maximizing your PPO leverage. So, understanding your participation, negotiations, those would be like steps 1 and 2. We're kind of setting the framework here. Step 3 would be a little bit more intricate. This is understanding how the relationships actually work. Okay. This is going to be a lot more nuanced. It's going to take a lot more of your time to do so. Okay. Now, we want to ensure your PPO fees are competitive for your area. We want to minimize optimization risks and maximize benefits. Negotiation, lower risk, essentially no risk, right? As long as it's a true increase. Lower risk, lower reward. Optimization, meaning utilizing these relationships. Higher risk, higher reward, okay? And then we're going to go over how to calculate your return on investment from PPO negotiations as well. So how to ensure your PPO offers are competitive for your area. A big one is make sure you don't get locked into a low fee schedule. A lot of you listening may be pre-established owners. You have a practice now. Maybe you're looking to open a new location. The number one pitfall I see is that providers say, oh, I'm opening a new location or I'm going to purchase. I need your help credentialing. Credentialing is not difficult. Sally up at the front can credential you. Your nephew could probably credential you if you just give him the information. Okay. What you really need to do is make sure that your fees are high before you sign. Okay. Because when you sign, you're going to be locked in for a minimum of 2 years before you can negotiate again. So, of course, if you're listening today, you already have a practice. This is something you need to do regardless. But if you're opening a practice or you're going to purchase a practice, then ideally you want to do the negotiations before you sign the dotted line. Okay. Unitas does have the data to compare your offers and determine how competitive they are for your area. We work with thousands of clients a day, so we just understand this process very well. We do have a high level of dedicated insurance contacts that you don't have access to. Some of you are really lucky and you're like, oh, my sister works for this company and we have a good point of contact over there. That's awesome. But most people aren't that lucky, right? A lot of people don't have insurance contacts. What makes us special is that we've been doing this forever. We've been doing this for over 14 years. We have thousands of clients a day. So we have really great relationships with the PPOs. And we always want to, make sure that we have good workflows with them. We're always meeting with them to improve. And that's only going to streamline the process for you if you are working with the right consulting company, is that we know who to talk to for what. A negotiation contact is going to be a different contact than who we use for credentialing. So it's all very nuanced and streamlined. And of course, we can negotiate on your behalf for many PPOs. We've negotiated on behalf of thousands of dentists, which I've spoken about. We have a highly trained team with years of experience and proven track record of negotiation and optimization success. Again, it is typically a 20% increase when you are working with us, and that's just average. We see more than that all the time. How to minimize optimization risks and maximize benefits. So remember, negotiations are more straightforward. They're a little bit easier to achieve. Anyone could really call and ask for an increase or email ask for an increase, and maybe they'll give it to you or maybe they won't, right? But that I would say is a lot lower risk. Optimization is a lot more nuanced. There are a lot of pros and cons to optimization, the pro being obvious of much higher fees than negotiations directly. But with optimization, there are pitfalls that could potentially happen to you, right? There's always, a potential that optimization doesn't work. This state could look different than this state depending on the rules. So that's why I feel very confident that we are the industry leaders, because we have the experience. a lot of these smaller companies that are starting to do this, they have not done this on the scale that we have done, and therefore they don't know the individual nuances that come with this process because there are dozens and dozens and dozens of relationships and they're always subject to change as well, right? So based on your current participation, we can identify other arrangements that may be more profitable than negotiations alone. Because many PPOs have multiple paths to participation, we've helped many practices across the country optimize their participation, which again will achieve higher reimbursement results than if you were to just negotiate on your own. Okay. We understand how to shift participation, the risks involved in the timelines. Again, negotiations is something I highly encourage you to do on your own. Most people who come to us actually have started it on their own. But at the same time, we have the contacts, so it's easier to do it through us. So, optimization. I don't recommend that you try this at home. Please don't. There are a lot of risks involved if you don't know what you're doing. I have talked to people all the time. Oh yeah, we've started to do this and we've ran into issues here, here, and here because they just don't see the big picture. They don't know how it actually works in real time. Even if on paper it says one thing, in reality it could be something completely different because again, the industry is always changing. So there are also really specific timelines involved with optimization that can be tricky to understand. And again, working with the right consulting company is going to help you. That's why I feel that Unitas, is the industry leader here because we just understand how this works on a very strategic basis. So optimization opportunities again, just feed into the reality that these leasing arrangements do exist, right? So we just want to work towards the arrangements that will pay you the most. These arrangements already are occurring. It's just a matter of figuring out how to access them, right? So, and no, you can't just call and ask them, hey, I want to go here. Unfortunately, that won't work. That would be great, but that's not the case. So how to calculate return on investment from negotiations. For over 10 years, it's actually over 14 years, we have implemented this plan and framework for thousands of dentists across the country. We have helped pioneer representation for dentists. So we can project your ROI through our average results, which I have been mentioning throughout this program. It is a 20% increase on average when you're working with us. So if you're producing $1 million a year, let's say 50% of that we can't even touch. Delta is a big one, typically non-negotiable. I cannot speak for Delta Dental. Sometimes they do negotiate, but in general, typically no. They typically do have more of a rigid fee schedule. Maybe your Medicaid or your state programs, things like that, are going to be non-negotiable. So then you have $500,000, let's just say in this example, to negotiate. If you increase $500,000 by our average results of 20% increase, that does bring you up to a $100,000 increase in your revenue. And that's just our average results. Many clients are doing above 20%. So just for some perspective here, if you're just doing 25%, that's a $125,000 increase in your revenue. And again, that is in 1 year of doing business as normal. We're not asking you to work harder, to stay late, or to upsell, do anything, that you don't want to do as a dentist. This is just giving you a raise for the work that you're already doing in the first place. So just some results. And truthfully, in my experience, these are conservative results. And that is a correct thing for me to say, but hey, we want to, what is the phrase? Under promise and over deliver. So 5 negotiated contracts for Dr. Morgan in North Carolina, and we optimized 2. So projected revenue increase was $64,000. For Dr. Baker in Texas, we negotiated 5 contracts and optimized 3, $79,000 increase in revenue. And again, this is just in 1 year of doing business, okay? Dr. Young in Florida negotiated 7 PPO contracts, optimized 4. Projected revenue increase was a $100,000 increase. So these are just some case studies. Again, in my opinion, these are conservative based on the numbers that I see. But even if you get extra 50,000 in your pocket in a year, it's really not going to hurt anybody. So Three key strategies to increasing PPO reimbursements. Understand your PPO participation and current reimbursement rates. So remember, you want to know where you're at now before you can increase. Don't try to skip a step because it's going to be a waste of your time. Number two, tactfully approach PPO negotiations. You don't want to waste time on the wrong procedure codes. And then number three, I highly recommend, if you are serious about this, do an evaluation with us. Just let us see if we are going to be a good fit to work together. Our consultations are always complimentary. And again, you can do negotiations on your own, but at the end of the day, we do have a lot more experience with it, right? We have our own contacts, and of course, optimization. I don't recommend that you do at home, but if you are, a little bit more serious about maximizing your revenue even further than negotiations, then definitely look into, partnering with PPO expert. So you may be feeling like this right now, blasted with information, but if you want to see a framework of this, just to see it all written down, you can revisit it later when you're not so overloaded. You can scan the QR code or go to www.ppoguide.com. So what's going to happen today after you finish the webinar? Dentists are the busiest people in the world, I swear. You're going to go back to treating patients, doing what you love to do. You're going to be scheduling appointments, and you're going to, just continue about your day, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to make you an offer that will help you implement this faster, right? We are going to provide you with a free consultation with myself. So if you scan this QR code here, then you can book a consultation with me. They're always complimentary. And I'm also going to paste my calendar link there. So if you are a QR code person, you could use the QR code. If you're a click on the link person, then it's in the chat there. But all of our consultations are complimentary, and we'll go over your PPO insurances. Please bring me a list of your PPOs that you have currently that you're in network with. And then we'll help you calculate your potential ROI on the call as well, and then help you identify which service you're best suited for. We do have a couple different service types depending on your needs. So definitely if you have your PPO list, that will be helpful. And then also if you can bring me your negotiation success specifically in the past 2 to 3 years. Many of you may be, hey, I've never negotiated my fees, or some of you may say, hey, I've tried, I've only been successful with one company. Whatever it is, those two are really going to be the main things that I want to talk to you about on the call and kind of evaluate to make sure we are a good fit to work together. So we also will provide you with these bonuses as well when you schedule a consultation with me. So we're going to provide you with our PPO provider master relations list. We make hundreds of phone calls to insurance companies each month. So this is our master list that will provide to you. You can print it out for your office staff, keep it handy. $199 value free, again, if you book a call with us. We work with a lot of providers who end up asking the same questions because we're all experiencing the same issues together, right? So we've created this e-guide, 35 common insurance problems and how to avoid them. Questions on downcoding, balance billing, out-of-network benefits, information changes, adding an associate. So this is a really helpful resource. $299 value, again, completely complimentary, as long as you do, book that consultation with us. We're also going to provide you with a fee schedule analysis tool. If you're anything like me, you probably don't know how to code a spreadsheet. So this will include all of the coding there as well. So all the formulas and calculations. So you're just going to be able to enter your UCRs and your fee schedules there and kind of see what everything looks like on paper. This is a $499 value, again, completely complimentary. So let's recap what you're going to get. You will receive, whenever you book a consultation with me, you'll receive PPO evaluation and ROI projection, your e-guide for the 35 most common insurance problems, your PPO provider relations master list, PPO fee schedule analysis tool, and of course, hours of time saved. Knowledge is power, right? The more you know, the more you're going to make, right? At the end of the day. And of course, higher PPO reimbursement rates. So all of this is going to be complimentary if you do schedule a consultation with me. So thank you so much for your time today. I hope that you learned something today. Drink some water after this if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, that was a lot of info. And of course, I look forward to seeing you soon and chatting a little bit more about how we can make you more, so we can help you with your financial goals. You can pay yourself more, pay your staff more, and of course, keep up with the rising cost of doing business. So thank you all so much and hope you have a good evening.